Hey YouTube, welcome back to Universe X. It has been a bit since I have dropped a TCG video, but fret not, the content cometh. We're moving into the new place. You can kind of see I don't have the same glass case in the backdrop. We've had to re-allot some of the stuff, but we are here and we are going to be back like we never left. We did kind of miss some of the OP03 drop hype, but don't worry, we're going to be there. Back at it again. I'm not sure if we're going to be doing any more box openings because we pretty much have like most of what we need, but we will be starting with the gameplay videos, the deck breakdown, the meta discussions, all these things. And today we're actually going to have some gameplay with a new setup. It's going to be Zoro versus Katakuri. That's red versus yellow, a matchup that a lot of people want to see, and we'll have more as we tweak the deck list. This format's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to have the deck list be shown, and then I'm going to follow it up with the normal just gameplay with the commentary. Past that though, I do want to say that if you enjoy this content, make sure you like the video so it trends, comment on the video so it trends, and so I can see all your thoughts on it. Give me feedback about how you like the new setup and whatnot, or dislike, whatever you want. And then just subscribe to the channel if you haven't joined the UniX fam already. Past that, the last things I'm going to say is that there's always the link tree in the description where you can find plenty of places to get your cards, whether it be singles or sealed for cheaper. And then this weekend, I will actually be with my sponsor, Mystic TCG, to commentate the Great Pirate Festival. So I'll have the links in the description a little later. I'm going to have some posts on my channel and my socials so you guys can see that. And yeah, I think that about covers it. So I hope you guys enjoy the gameplay. Like I said, give me your feedback in the comments, and I will also have the Mystic TCG reel afterwards so you guys can know a little bit more about my sponsor. So let's get it. All right, so for this video, I will be playing Zoro. And when it comes to Zoro, we're just gonna go over the list real quick because I know in the previous videos, you guys asked to see these lists before we played. So we're gonna keep it short and sweet. We've got 4 Ezo, searches out all the Whitebeard engines. That's the Marcos, the Whitebeards themselves, Fire Fist later on, just pretty much most of the essential plays for this. Currently, I'm just testing out 3 Buggy. Buggy will search out the Radical Beams, the Guard Points, the Fire Fist, everything you need for your extra side. We're still running 4 Otamas. I know some people have been opting to not, but at the same time, I do like the combinations it has with Marco, the plays it opens up with Fire Fist, as well as Whitebeard when you have them online. So that we've got 3 Machinos. Machinos will boost up the 1-drops if I need to, otherwise just a 2K that can fetch off of, Curly Dawn, which we play 4 of right here. Past that, we're gonna move on to the 3-drop Zoro. Not the most copies of this. It's a weird card to max out on, like you can, but some people play as low as 2. I like 3 personally as my number of just rushers, but you have to have the rush element. You will be seeing more cards in this game because you'll be cycling through so many, but you don't have the Namis to pick it up, so I always feel like the rush element is important. When it comes to more 2Ks, you have the Jozus. We use these over Brooks because we don't have Namis anymore, and these cards can be discarded with the Marco blocker to bring it back, but it can also be a 2K that you get off of Ezo. Coming in extremely hot, we got these alt art Marco blockers. I do think the art is beautiful. This should be a no-brainer. Once you're down to 2 life, you can discard a Whitebeard Pirates card to bring this back tap. So this becomes like the full front of your defense late game, or mid game or late game, depending on how much life you take. We got the 5-drop Marco, one of the best SRs out of this set. Comes down, smokes something 3K or less in conjunction with Otama. 5K or less in conjunction with Gordon, 6K or less. So there's a lot you can do. And then rounding out the rest of my character cards, we got the Whitebeard, followed by the extra setup. We run these. We don't really use them that much unless we really need to, but this can be discarded for both Marcos and search off the Ezo, so that's very, very nice. Then we've got the 4 guard points for the defense and the searching out with Buggies and discarding with Marcos. 4 Radical Beams, same thing except better. And then we've got, lastly, to round it out, 3 Fire Fists for destruction. So that's the list I'm going to be using in this video, and yeah, now we'll move over to the opponent's deck.
Alright, I'll be the opponent for this video. I'll be playing Big Mom Pirates with Katakuri leader. The list is pretty standard. There's a couple of flex spots that I'm considering that I'm just kind of testing out. But as usual, we'll do 4 Pudding, think that's a good place to put them. The 2K package, which is pudding variant, 2-drop pudding, 4 2-drop pudding, 4 Strusen, and 4 Sanji. You don't ever really use it for anything other than it being 2K. I mean, if you are that desperate, you could try to swing with Sanji if it lives, but you don't have. If your opponent sees you do that, you're not really in a good spot. Sliding that around. We have 3 Thunderbolts. I felt the 4th being a little too clunky in testing. I think they're better in the Big Mom leader. So I'm testing out 3, and it's been working really well. The flex bots that I'm considering is 2 3-drop Shirley blockers. It's a blocker for any extra defense, and on play you get to pretty much use your leader effect in a turn where you may not be able to, or if you want that extra information. And then the other flex spot is Ikugu Sovereignty. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but it's a 5K counter, and it works on defense. The only reason I played it at 2 is because obviously when you get to your big boss plays, it feels really dead. But it also feels really good in life when you have those dead cards in your hand. You could pitch them to just recycle the life you just took. So that's always good. We're still iffy on that, but we're testing. That's why we test. Got 4 Parasparrow. It's my favorite card in the deck. When it comes down, it's an easy 5K. It's almost a card out of your hand for practically free, because when it gets removed, you get a card back. The other 3-drop blocker, Brûlée, it comes into play on trigger, and it's a free blocker. Pretty good. I want a little more aggression, so the 4-drop package I have 4 of, I max out at. 4 Smoothie and 4 Cracker. These are a perfect bridge to your big bosses. If they can't get rid of this, like, you just kind of steamroll to the late game. A little bit of controversy here. I have Shirahoshi at 3. It feels good when you proc off their triggers, but other than that, it feels awful. You'll never play it for 5. You'll never feel good about playing it for 5, and it's 0 attack power. And then the late half of the deck. These ratios might change, but I'm kind of liking Big Mom 7 at 2. If I see my opponent get past this checkpoint, then I'll play the 7, but otherwise, when I have 7 Don, I normally just Don these up in my leader, and I play these at 9, like when I hit the 9th Don or 8th Don. After that, let me slide these over. I have 3 8-drop Katakuri. That card is goated. It gets rid of a lot of the major threats in the game. You may feel bad about playing it and giving your opponent that life, but when you want a good, huge momentum swing, that card really puts in work. And last but not least, 4 10-drop Big Mom. The reason why you play this deck. This card is amazing. Like the momentum swing that Big Mom provides is just too good. But yeah, that's gonna be the list I'm gonna be playing.
Okay, so here we've got Red Zoro versus Yellow Katakuri. It's very interesting because Zoro can still put some aggressive pressure out, but it actually has kind of shifted more towards a mid-range deck, whereas Katakuri I think is like pure tempo. You can be very aggressive, your late game stabilizes on some really, really heavy effects, some big bodies. So it's actually very interesting because both decks are trying to stabilize in different ways. This dice roll was won by the Katakuri player, and then he decided to have himself go first and me go second. I can see that because, you're going to be able to go turn 1 Parasparrow, turn 1 Pudding, turn 2 Parasparrow, and then just like curve out to there. You'll be able to end up hitting your Big Mom on 7 on curve, but then you'll have to wait an extra turn for Big Mom 10. So that's pretty much what we got here. Life all set up, and I guess it looks like turn 1. He kept his hand, and I, playing Zoro, had the mulligan. So we got the turn 1 Pudding. Looking at the top couple of cards of the deck, going into the Parasparrow. This is exactly the curve that he wanted to see going first. I think with my own hand, I saw a Curly Dodon, a Jozu, an Ezo, a couple other cards, a Zoro, and I think a Marco. I think because we already have Ezo, we're going to take Curly to Dawn just in case you want to combo. Or sorry, Curly Dawn's going to take Otama just in case you want to combo that with Marco to get rid of a body. Passing it back to the Katakuri player's turn. And we get a neutral poke. That lets us know right then and there that the Parasparrow is going to come down. We're going to take that because in this deck you can go down to 2 before Radical Beam is live and whatnot, and Marco blockers are live, but he plays the Parasparrow and he passes. Already starting to build up some of the pressure. You got the leader going in for 7 each turn, and then Parasparrow's going to start poking. Coming in with the Zoro, with the Dawn, and then putting Curly up to 5 to poke neutral again. His hand isn't that big now, so we want to get in some damage while we can. But we walk directly into a Cracker trigger, and that's a little rough. Now he's got 3 swings coming at us next turn, and we still have a pretty good hand, but not necessarily the best. Trashing the blocker because at this point I feel like he knows that he's about to just go full tilt. Like there's no reason to play a blocker this early in the game right now. He's about to just come in heavy with it.
As a Katakuri player, I saw in my opening hand I didn't see any of my trigger cards, so it kind of gave me good RNG that like I would see my trigger cards in life. That's kind of why I kind of banked on, you know, keeping the hand. You always want to start putting in Parasparrow going first. That's just kind of where you want to be. Just because if they remove the Parasparrow, you get another card back. Every card in that deck besides Sanji is searchable with both those cards. So I had a pretty good start. That's why I kept them all.
Yeah, I able to bank that the life was chock full of things. After seeing the Cracker get put down, I realized I just definitely needed to put on more pressure. I mean, of course, the leader needs to attack just to get a card from hand. It's always risky going into life of a yellow player, but we're definitely starting to see his board mount up. So right now, it looks like we're going to get a Dawn on the pudding in order to take out the Curly. With his board shaping up the way it does, I can't afford to even think about putting a card out there to stop that. And then afterwards, we are going to... I mean, just because Red has life shenanigans, you know, Jet Pistol and Fire Fist, it's probably best that we start swinging in with these. I do say in this particular case, since my life and his life are the same, I think the Cracker should go through, because if I do have something like Jet Pistol or Fire Fist, it would destroy the Cracker and there would be no potential gain to the value. But if it was swung the opposite way, Cracker gets in his swing, and if I do get something off of trigger, it kills the Parasparrow if I want to stop the next swing. So slight, I think, missequence in terms of value, but this is why we test. The Parasparrow is going to take a card out of my hand, and then the Cracker is going to get in for a damage. I don't want to let go of that Otama yet because I feel like the Otama is going to come in for a crucial play soon. But now we're getting a huge swing for Katakuri. Checking the top of his life. Is that a Big Mom?
Yep, that was a Big Mom 7.
Yeah. So I'm going to take that, putting me down pretty low early in the game. We don't want to really be at 2 life until like maybe turn 4-ish, but he's amassing a board that's actually going to be very, very rough for me to stop.
Yeah, during that break when I had the 4 Dawn open, I was questioning whether I should put the Dawn under Parasparrow or summon another 4-drop. I went with the Parasparrow play with the pokes because I thought that I would get more out of his hand with that play, and I did miss sequence with the Cracker. But yeah, once I kind of just finished that route tree, I was like, let me just see what I could generate in my hand. Now that I knew that if he got through this board and swung at my face, the Big Mom 7 was coming up.
Starting off the turn by returning the Ezo into his pudding, making sure that the weenies end up trading so they're not just left over to make swings next turn. Doing this tit for tat is always good as a player. You want to be able to clear those weenies because you can only get swung on so many times by said weenies until you just kind of get to the point where you're like, okay, like that's a turn, or that's an attack every turn. They're gonna have to throw towards those so they don't swing for later. After getting into that, I do want to be able to swing on Cracker. We're not quite ready for him to have more options in hand, so I don't want to swing on the Parasparrow, especially saying is that You know, they're both 5K bodies, but one has value leaving the board right now, one doesn't. So we're just gonna get rid of the cracker. Next, we're gonna play a blocker Marco since we're at 2 life, followed by an Ezo. We do have to put down a radical beam and a guard point, but we do pick up a 2K. And we're gonna leave 1 Dawn up for just the ability to hit an event card.
While my turn's going on, I just want to say on the defensive side, where I messed up was that I had a 1K in my hand to block the leader swing on the cracker to keep it alive, but I did fully expect a little bit more pushback from him so that I could see the Big Mom in my hand and then slam it on the turn. But when he didn't do that, I kind of had to stop, pause, and reevaluate.
Yeah, my life is getting low to the point where I wanted to start building my wall, but I also wanted to start chipping cards from hand. For me, if he took the damage, he took the damage. But if he loses a card in hand or a body, then that's good for me too. So just the neutral pokes, the Marco, the Ezo, setting up at least 1 more additional swing next turn with the 1 drop, and then the 1 Dawn up. So this time he's swinging in for 7 with Paraspero, and that's a really good number, especially seeing me leave up a Dawn, because I can't just 2K out of that. I have to use the radical beam that I left up. And now he's free to swing with the Katakuri. So right now he's pretty much returned fire on my board. Pudding took out my Ezo. Paraspero took out my radical beam. And now he's going to check the top card of my life, decide that it needs to go to the bottom, and then swing them with 7K. And at this point, while I don't want to have him, like, I know he's going to play a card, he's got 4 up, so it's probably just adding another body. I'm going to actually use Marco, and the one place I messed up here was that there was another card I could have discarded. It didn't need to be the Jozu. Jozu should have stayed in hand for the 2K. I had 2, I believe, 5-drop Marcos in hand, and so that really just needed to be one of those. That was a misplay on my part. I just, for a second, kind of had a brain fart. It's a little late here, but we're still grinding these matches. So untapping, realizing I left the Josie. Yeah, I have like 3 Marcos in hand right now. It's a little rough. Realizing I lost the 2K, I still have a pretty defensive board. I see a Makino, 2 5K or 2 5-drop Marcos, 1 4 Mike drop Marco. The hand is still pretty gassed, but there's a big life disparity, and then he's also starting to get ahead in terms of board. So once again, we shoot for the pudding. At this point, we are ready to swing at the cracker. I believe he's got 4 cards in hand. So if he defends this, the Paraspero. If he defends the Paraspero, he's actually going to have to lose a card, like a 4th of his hand. So I'm assuming that's just an easy trade. I don't need to Dawn up Zoro because he's going to lose the Paraspero but gain 1 card in his hand, or he can let go of the Paraspero by saving it, dropping a 4th of his hand, not knowing what I'm going to do with the rest of my Dawn. And in red, with the destruction and the rushers, that's kind of rough. So Paraspero only diving 3 cards deep allows you to search another Paraspero, and so he's just floating through his turn. And then this is going to be a Curly to Dawn. I want to see what I get off the top of my deck. Fortunately, it's a hard whiff. I see a Radical Beam, a Guard Point, a Whitebeard Pirates, a Zoro, and 1 more card. So Curly to Dawn was just a 2 Dawn sink into nothing, which kind of hurt. But we're going to play a second blocker here. The way I set up my Dawn, if you're looking at why it's just like sitting there with extra Dawn, was because I wanted to play Curly to Dawn into maybe a Buggy or an Ezo. And if I got a Buggy could search into a Radical Beam or a Guard Point, and then I'd have the exact amount of Dawn to play that Buggy and still have 1 up. But I whiffed on the Curly to Dawn, which just leaves me with 2 Dawn open that I could have used. But, you know, especially when you're playing against things like Thunderbolt and stuff like that, you kind of have to sequence so that your stuff isn't open on the board. I didn't swing in life, so maybe that was a missequence. Maybe I should have played all these things first. But, yeah. His turn starting out, immediately going for the cracker, opting to ignore my board. He's got 4 life, and depending on what he could, or what I choose when he plays a 7-drop Big Mom, he's either going to go up or down. At this point, I realized that I don't have another extra card in hand, so putting Fire Fist into my hand does absolutely nothing. I'll have to be at the mercy of top decking an extra card to proc it, so I just decided to use the trigger right then and there. No use trying to wait for value when it's conditional. So he just ends up clearing my board, and then it looks like we're going to get into more bodies. A Paraspero for more floating, followed by, can't tell how much was tapped there, I'm sorry. Oh, a smoothie. And this is actually pretty cool because you don't need to jam the 7 drop right now. The moment it comes down, if you already have a board, you're gonna force them to, give you a life or take a life, and then you can decide what you do from there. So this is pretty cool. He's building up the board that I tore apart just to make sure that he can better capitalize on it next turn. He is a little low on hand, but he's got the life advantage. Literally, I think our hands and life are almost like opposite. I mean, I have a lot of cards in hand right now, but he has 4 life. We're not at the end of like yellow's top end, so I mean, he's gonna gain life. But right now, we're gonna swing for a neutral 5. So bring out the Shirahoshi, which is useless in hand. I believe he was talking about that when he was going through his deck. We were about to swing with this, but once again, we are testing, and I realized that no, this is not the most effective use of my Dawn. He's got 4 life, but he's got a low hand. If he combos out of this with a 2K, I'm glad to see the 2K out of his hand. If he takes it, he takes it, but I don't need to allot 7. There's a very, very, very strict line of play in my hand right now, and he opts to take the life going up. So I Otama the smoothie, and then after using Otama and the smoothie, we're going to jump in with the Marco to blow up the smoothie. And then we are going to then kill the Otama for a Buggy. Now I did hesitate because I thought I was gonna kill the Dodon for it, but with my life at 1, I do want to give the opportunity for him to swing at Dodon because that's one more attack that's not going at my life. He can't rush me right now with the Katakuri because I'm at lower life total, so me keeping the Dodon there essentially makes a little bit of a buffer. He can either take the bait on Dodon and kill a potential swinger for next turn, or he can swing directly at my life. But leaving the option there still gives me potentially breathing room depending on whether he prioritizes my board or swinging face. Quick hand check, I believe I have 6 in hand. He's got a full stack of Dawn, and in the Big Mom deck that can get pretty dangerous. But at least with a board this big, it's a little scary for him to tap out to play 10 drop.
Yeah, because it took him 2 turns to get me that 4th life that I had planned to use that first initial turn on the pushback, that Big Mom was just really dead to me. Like I missed my window to play it, and having that in life actually punished me at this point. And this is kind of where I kind of started to see that looking at my hand and looking at the board, momentum was starting to shift in his favor. So I'm kind of analyzing my plays because in my hand I had Katakuri 8, Big Mom 7, and me dropping the Big Mom 10 now. I went with this play. I had a really hard decision tree here. This is the turn where it took me a lot of thinking to see what I could do to win. I wanted to take that last life, but the better move, you'll see later, is I should have played the Katakuri 8 here, because if you didn't see on my last 2 defensive turns, I had 2 open for Ikugu Sovereignty. And the fact that I played Big Mom 10, I made that card dead, and it was the only defense in my hand. It could have stopped 1, maybe 2 swings if I played with Katakuri, because I would have bottom decked one of his Marcos, which was blocking, and then the Parasparrow would have gone through, or would have attempted to go through.
Mm-hmm. And it's like even the playing of the Big Mom, going up to 4 cards in a life, I have to swing at him a total of 5 times to kill him. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 swings. Some of them need to be donned up just to hit over the leader. But the idea of me donning up swings and him already having a couple cards in hand and gaining 4 cards and not being able to stop 2 of them is very, very, very minuscule, especially if I have to play a rusher. So this isn't even a bad play in itself, but I do understand what he means when he said that the Katakuri stacking one of my blockers would have been a better play, because he could have Katakuri stacked and then Sovereignty to save his life, and then the following turn followed it up with another Big Mom to crit said Marco. But now I have kind of free reign. I've got probably about 4 attacks this turn because I don't want to swing with one of my Marcos. That gets a little scary, especially when he has a 10 or a 12k swinger on board and I literally have 0 life. right now we're actually just talking about some of the plays that can happen here.
Yeah, I kept asking him how many cards were in his hand and how much counter power it was, because the Dawn was actually at 6 and I countered up to 6, and so we were kind of going back and forth on whether the 7K, doing the second card would have been the proper move, but I ended up doing it regardless, just for the knowledge's sake. I was hoping that, because I didn't see a lot of my 2Ks during the game, that I thought I would have them in life, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, this turn is a very offensive turn for me. Buggy swung for 5. We got a Marco swinging for 7. We got a Curly to End swinging for 6. My leader swung for 7, and then this is a Zoro swing for 7, leaving 1 open for the Radical Beam in my hand. Unfortunately, I hit Cracker off of that, because until I hit Cracker, I felt very, very, very comfortable. He can't play Big Mom 7 because I'll just choose my own life, and I don't have any life. If he plays Big Mom 10 again, that does get a little scary, but he only gets half of the effect, and I will attempt to kill him the following turn. So there were very few cards I was worried about. Now, Katakuri is something that was scary to me, but Katakuri can't be the only card that he plays if, like, he needs to have a little backup in hand, like the Sovereignty. But, yeah, we're in a point where he can force a lot. I have 3 cards in hand, and he swings the neutral, like, Smoothie before boosting it up to 7K. This is a little weird for me because I think I did telegraph the Radical Beam. You just kind of have to go for it. But at the same time, if he only swung for 5 or 6, a 2K gets out of that. So I think him going to 7 very much so eliminates the Radical Beam that I telegraphed immediately. The only thing about going to 7 though is taking that last life is that now I don't fear Thunderbolt, and Thunderbolt was one of the things I was most afraid of. I was very afraid of him swinging with Big Mom, forcing a block, and then Thunderbolting, and then swinging with everything he has on his Katakuri. Because in my hand, I only had Radical Beam, Whitebeard, and Marco, so I can only go up to 10K. So that, like I said, that was my fear. I think right here, yeah, we just bring it back with Whitebeard. If he had Thunderbolt in hand, he could have swung with Big Mom for 12K. I would have had to block it, discard the Whitebeard, and then he could have Thunderbolted the other Marco, taking his last life, and then I would have just had a Radical Beam and a Marco, which puts me, like I said, at 10K, and so he could put the remaining 8 Dawn on Katakuri and just swing for game. So realistically, I won here because I didn't have, or because he didn't have Thunderbolt. That's it. Like, I can tell you right then and there, Thunderbolt was the difference between this game being won or lost by him. I think right now we're just going to the math, thinking about the sequencing. I was afraid of Katakuri, but I did have a temporary like lapse of just wondering, oh wait, Katakuri does give me a life, and that's why Vasquez did not play it. So he offers the handshake.
And I was showing off my hand and said,
yeah, that's pretty much that. But we're gonna go into the Mystic TCG side of it. I hope you guys enjoyed, and like I said, leave your feedback in the comments. So let's talk about Mystic TCG, your one-stop shop for all your TCG needs. On the site, you can buy or pre-order plenty of sealed product for plenty of games. Just make sure though, if you're pre-ordering, to give it 3 to 4 months in advance to start looking, because sometimes the product is indeed hot, supply and demand, you know. And then if you want to buy singles, go on tcgplayer.com. There's going to be a link in the description where you can buy for the best value. And if you want to sell cards or collections, you can message them on their Facebook site so you can get the best bang for your buck on any type of way you want to buy or sell cards. And then while you're at it, you can use the code UNIXTCG at checkout to get even more of a discount. So hey, what are you waiting for? Check out Mystic TCG today.